The kingdom of Gyeongsong was not like any other place on earth. It wasn't just a city or a nation, it was an empire built on technology so advanced that it seemed magical to outsiders. Towers made of shimmering metal reached high into the clouds, glowing softly at night as if they were stars fallen from the sky. The streets below buzzed with hovercars and drones carrying goods from one corner of the kingdom to another. But beneath all its beauty and power, Gyeongsong had a core of steel. Rules, order, and fear. At the heart of this empire stood Queen Hana, a woman whose name was whispered with both awe and dread. She was tall and elegant, her long black hair tied back in a tight braid that fell over her shoulder. Her eyes were sharp, always scanning, always judging. People said she could see through lies without even trying, and maybe they were right. Queen Hana ruled with precision, demanding loyalty not through kindness but through strength. To her, weakness was a disease, and she would not tolerate it in herself or anyone else. On this particular morning, Queen Hana sat on her throne, staring down at the man standing before her. He wore plain armor, scratched and dented from years of use. His face was lined with age and worry. But there was something about him, a quiet confidence that made him stand out. This was Commander Jae-sik, one of the most respected soldiers in the kingdom. Yet today, he looked uneasy, his hands clasped tightly behind his back. "Commander," Queen Hana began, her voice cold and clear. "You have been called here because we face a threat unlike anything we've seen before." Jae-sik nodded, though his expression remained guarded. "Your Majesty, I am ready to serve." Queen Hana leaned forward slightly, narrowing her eyes. "Before we proceed, answer me this. How many battles have you fought?" The question hung in the air like a blade. 50 battles. That number meant nothing to some people, but to others, it was proof of survival, skill, and endurance. To Queen Hana, however, it seemed insufficient. She tilted her head, studying him as if searching for cracks in his armor. "And yet," she said slowly, "you are still here, still alive. Tell me, Commander, does that make you proud or ashamed?" Jae-sik flinched ever so slightly, but he kept his gaze steady. "Neither, Your Majesty. Survival is its own reward." Queen Hana let out a soft laugh, though it held no warmth. "Survival is not enough. Not for what lies ahead." She rose from her throne, her movements smooth and deliberate. "We have received reports of an alien force approaching our borders. They are unlike anything we've encountered before. Powerful, relentless, and merciless. If they reach Gyeongsong, they will destroy us." Jae-sik felt a chill run down his spine. Aliens? He had heard rumors, of course, but nothing concrete. Now, faced with the reality of such a threat, he couldn't help but feel a pang of doubt. Could humanity really stand against beings from another world? "What do you need from me?" he asked finally. "I need you to lead our forces," Queen Hana replied. Jae-sik bowed his head. "I will do my best, Your Majesty." But as he left the throne room, he couldn't shake the feeling that this battle might be his last. 50 battles already weighed heavily on his shoulders. How much more could he endure? Meanwhile, far from the grand halls of the palace, Lieutenant Yoonjin stood among rows of soldiers, shouting orders as they trained. She was younger than most officers, barely in her 20s. But she carried herself with authority. Her short brown hair was tucked neatly under her helmet, and her uniform bore the insignia of Jae-sik's unit. Yoonjin had grown up hearing stories of Commander Jae-sik's exploits. To her, he was a legend. A man who had faced death countless times and always come out victorious. But now, as she prepared her troops for war, she couldn't help but wonder if legends were truly invincible. What if this time, even Jae-sik failed? "Lieutenant," one of the soldiers jogged up to her, panting. "We've received new orders. Commander Jae-seek wants us to double our training schedule. Yoonjin sighed. Doubling the schedule meant longer hours, less rest, and more pressure. But she knew better than to complain. Understood, she said firmly. Tell everyone to gather their gear. We start again in 10 minutes. As the soldiers dispersed, Yoonjin turned to look at the horizon. Somewhere beyond those distant hills, danger loomed. She didn't know much about the aliens, but she did know one thing. Fear wouldn't save her. Only action would. Later that evening, after the day's training ended, Yoonjin found herself wandering toward the research lab. Inside, Dr. Subin was hard at work, surrounded by holographic screens displaying complex equations and diagrams. Subin was a small woman with glasses perched on her nose. But her mind was sharper than any blade. She glanced up as Yoonjin entered. "Lieutenant," Subin greeted her with a smile. "What brings you here?" "I wanted to check on the weapons," Yoonjin admitted. "Are we ready?" Subin hesitated, then shook her head. "Not entirely. These aliens, they're different. Their technology is far beyond ours. But I'm working on something, a device that might level the playing field." Yoonjin frowned. "How long until it's ready?" "It depends," Subin replied. "No," Yoonjin said quietly. "We don't." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of the situation pressed down on them both. Finally, Subin placed a hand on Yoonjin's shoulder. "Don't lose hope," she said gently. "Even the smallest spark can ignite a fire." Yoonjin nodded, though she wasn't sure she believed it. Hope was a fragile thing, easily crushed under the weight of reality. Still, she forced a smile and thanked Subin before leaving. Back in her quarters, Yoonjin stared at the ceiling, thinking about the days ahead. She thought about Commander Jae-seek, about Queen Hana, about the countless lives depending on their success, and she thought about herself, about whether she was strong enough to face whatever came next. One thing was certain: the coming battle would change everything. For better or worse, the fate of Gyeongsong rested in their hands. The sun rose over Gyeongsong, casting golden light across the vast plains where soldiers trained tirelessly. The air buzzed with activity, hovercrafts zipped overhead, carrying supplies to the front lines, while drones monitored every movement below. Among the chaos stood Commander Jae-seek, watching his troops with a mix of pride and unease. He had seen many battles, but this one felt different. The enemy wasn't just another human army. They were aliens. Beings from beyond the stars whose motives and capabilities remained shrouded in mystery. Jae-seek walked among the soldiers, offering words of encouragement or sharp corrections when needed. His presence alone seemed to steady the nerves of those around him. But inside, he was anything but calm. Queen Hana's question still echoed in his mind. "How many battles have you fought?" 50, he had said. Yet now, staring at the young faces before him, he wondered if 50 battles had taught him enough or too little to face what lay ahead. Nearby, Lieutenant Yoonjin led a group of rookies through combat drills. Her voice carried authority despite her youth, and her movements were precise, almost mechanical. She pushed herself harder than anyone else, refusing to show weakness even when fatigue threatened to overwhelm her. Still, there were moments when doubt crept in, whispering that she might not be ready for the war to come. After hours of grueling exercises, Yoonjin dismissed her team and headed toward the research lab. Inside, Dr. Subin worked feverishly, surrounded by holographic screens displaying complex schematics and equations. When Yoonjin entered, Subin looked up, her glasses slightly askew. "How's it going?" Yoonjin asked, trying to sound casual. Subin sighed, rubbing her temples. Slowly. "These aliens, their technology is unlike anything we've encountered. It's like trying to solve a puzzle without knowing the pieces." Yoonjin frowned. "I don't know," Subin admitted, "but I'm working on something, a device that disrupts psychic signals. If these aliens rely on telepathy to coordinate, we might have a chance." Unjin nodded, though the idea seemed far-fetched. Telepathy? It sounded more like science fiction than reality. But then again, so did aliens invading Earth. Keep me updated, Unjin said before leaving. As she stepped outside, she noticed Commander Jasik standing nearby, gazing at the horizon. Something about his posture caught her attention. His shoulders slumped ever so slightly, betraying the weight of his responsibilities. "Commander," she called out, approaching him cautiously. Jasik turned to face her, his expression unreadable. "Lieutenant, what is it?" "I wanted to check in," Unjin replied. "How are things progressing?" Jasik hesitated, then gestured toward the soldiers practicing in the distance. "As well as can be expected. They're strong, capable, but—" He trailed off, shaking his head. "This isn't just another battle, Unjin. We're fighting something we barely understand." Unjin swallowed hard. "Do you think we'll win?" "I don't know," Jasik admitted. "But we have no choice but to try." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a messenger drone, which hovered above them before projecting a holographic message. It was from Queen Hana. "To all commanders," the recording began. "Reports indicate the alien fleet is approaching faster than anticipated. Deployment orders will be issued within 24 hours. Prepare your forces accordingly. Round. Anhala. Anhala. Being. Anhala. 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 Anhala." Jasik clenched his fists, anger and frustration bubbling beneath the surface. 24 hours? That wasn't nearly enough time. They weren't ready, not fully, but arguing with Queen Hana would only waste precious minutes. "We need to move quickly," Jasik said, addressing Unjin. "Gather everyone. We're doubling down on training tonight." "Yes, sir," Unjin replied, saluting before rushing off to relay the order. As night fell, the training grounds transformed into a hive of activity. Soldiers practiced formations, simulated attacks, and defensive maneuvers under the watchful eyes of their commanders. Despite the exhaustion etched on their faces, morale remained high. For many, the thought of protecting Gyeongsong gave them purpose, even if it meant facing death. Jasik wandered among the troops, observing their progress. Occasionally, he stopped to offer advice or demonstrate techniques himself. At one point, he approached Unjin, who was leading a mock battle scenario. "You're doing well," he told her. "Your leadership inspires confidence." Unjin blinked, surprised by the compliment. "That's all anyone can do," Jasik said with a faint smile. Later that evening, Jasik found himself sitting alone near the edge of the camp, staring at the stars. Memories of past battles flooded his mind. Friends lost, mistakes made, victories won at great cost. Each memory weighed heavily on his heart, reminding him of the fragility of life and the inevitability of loss. He was still lost in thought when Queen Hana appeared, her silhouette illuminated by the soft glow of a nearby lamp. She moved silently, almost ghost-like, until she stood beside him. "You should be resting," she said, her tone neutral. "So should you," Jasik replied, without looking at her. Queen Hana sighed, folding her arms across her chest. "I came to see how preparations are coming along. They're progressing," Jasik said. "But we need more time." "There is no more time," Queen Hana snapped, her patience wearing thin. "If we delay any longer, the aliens will reach us before we're ready." Jasik stood abruptly, turning to face her. "And if we rush in unprepared, we'll lose everything." For a moment, neither spoke. The tension between them crackled like electricity. Finally, Queen Hana softened her stance, her expression shifting from anger to something resembling regret. "I trust you, Commander," she said quietly. With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Jasik alone once more. The next morning brought renewed determination. Soldiers packed their gear, loaded weapons, and prepared for deployment. Unjin stood among them, checking equipment and offering final words of encouragement. Despite her fears, She refused to let them show. If she faltered, so would her team. As the convoy set out, heading toward the alien stronghold, Jasek rode at the front, his gaze fixed ahead. Behind him stretched an army of brave men and women, each willing to risk their lives for the sake of Gyeongsang. Ahead lay uncertainty, the unknown horrors of an alien invasion. Yet amidst the fear and anticipation, one thing was clear. The battle to come would test them all in ways they couldn't imagine. Whether they emerged victorious or perished in the attempt, history would remember this day as the moment humanity faced its greatest challenge. The barren wasteland stretched endlessly before them, a desolate expanse of cracked earth and jagged rocks. The sky above was darkened by swirling clouds of ash, remnants of earlier skirmishes that had scorched the land. Commander Jasek stood at the forefront of his troops, binoculars raised as he scanned the horizon. In the distance, strange shapes moved tall, insect-like creatures with glowing eyes and shimmering armor. These were the aliens. Jasek lowered the binoculars, his jaw tightening. They were bigger than he'd expected. Their movements fluid, yet unnatural, like machines cloaked in flesh. Hovering above them were massive ships, sleek and menacing, casting long shadows over the battlefield. Humanity's forces looked small and fragile in comparison. But there was no time for doubt now. "Lieutenant Yoon-jin," Jasek called out, turning to the young officer standing nearby. "Prepare the first wave." Yoon-jin nodded sharply, her heart pounding as she relayed the order. Soldiers moved into position, gripping their weapons tightly. Some whispered prayers under their breath. Others focused on steadying their breathing. None of them knew what awaited them, but they all shared one goal: survival. As the signal was given, the first wave charged forward, firing bursts of energy from their rifles. The aliens responded instantly, unleashing beams of light that cut through the air like knives. Explosions erupted across the field, sending debris flying in every direction. Screams filled the air, some of pain, some of defiance. Jasek watched grimly as his soldiers fought valiantly, but it quickly became clear that brute force alone wouldn't be enough. The aliens' weapons were far superior, capable of tearing through human defenses with ease. Worse still, they seemed to anticipate every move, reacting faster than should have been possible. "They're using telepathy," Jasek muttered to himself. He turned to Yoon-jin, who had returned after leading a failed assault. "We need to disrupt their communication." "But how?" Yoon-jin asked, her voice strained. "Dr. Subin's device isn't ready yet." "It has to be," Jasek said firmly. "Find her. Tell her we need it now." Yoon-jin hesitated, glancing back at the chaos unfolding around them. Every second counted, and leaving the battlefield felt like abandoning her comrades. But she trusted Jasek's judgment. With a sharp nod, she sprinted toward the rear lines, where Dr. Subin was stationed. Inside a makeshift command tent, Subin worked frantically, surrounded by wires, circuits, and glowing panels. Her hands trembled as she adjusted components, sweat dripping down her face. When Yoon-jin burst in, Subin barely glanced up. "I heard," Subin said without preamble. "It's not finished, but I can try activating it early." Yoon-jin stepped closer, watching as Subin connected the final wire. The device hummed softly, emitting a faint blue light. It looked unassuming, a small cube with blinking lights, but Yoon-jin knew its potential could change the course of the battle. "How does it work?" Yoon-jin asked. "It emits a pulse that interferes with psychic signals," Subin explained. "If these aliens rely on telepathy to coordinate, this should confuse them for a short time. At least. And if it doesn't work?" Subin gave her a grim smile. "Then we're dead." Yoon-jin swallowed hard but nodded. There was no room for hesitation. Together, they carried the device to the edge of the battlefield, where Jasek waited with a small team. "Are you sure about this?" Jasek asked, eyeing the device skeptically. "It's our only chance," Yoon-jin replied. Jasek took a deep breath, then signaled for silence. "All right. Lieutenant," Take a squad and get close enough to activate it. We'll cover you. Yunjin saluted, then led her team into the fray. Bullets whizzed past their heads as they darted between cover, dodging blasts of alien energy. Each step felt heavier than the last, exhaustion threatening to slow them down. But Yunjin pushed forward, fueled by determination. Finally, they reached a position near the center of the alien formation. Yunjin set the device down carefully, her fingers trembling as she activated it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a low hum filled the air, growing louder until it became almost unbearable. The aliens froze, their movements jerky and erratic as the pulse disrupted their coordination. "Yes!" Yunjin shouted, relief washing over her. She turned to retreat, but too late. An alien warrior lunged at her, its claws slashing downward. Pain exploded in her side as she fell to the ground, blood seeping through her uniform. Her teammates rushed to help, dragging her back to safety while continuing to fire at the disoriented aliens. By the time they reached J6 position, Yunjin was barely conscious, clutching her wound tightly. "She needs medical attention," J6 ordered, motioning for medics to take her away. His expression hardened as he surveyed the battlefield. Thanks to the device, the tide had shifted slightly in their favor, but the victory was temporary at best. The aliens were already regrouping, adapting to the interference. "We've bought ourselves some time," J6 said to his remaining soldiers. "Use it wisely." Back at the command post, Dr. Subin tended to Yunjin's injuries, stitching the wound as quickly as she could. Despite the severity, Yunjin refused to stay down for long. "I'm fine," she insisted, trying to sit up despite Subin's protests. "I need to get back out there." "You're injured," Subin snapped. "You won't do anyone any good if you bleed out." Yunjin gritted her teeth but relented, lying back against the cot. Still, her mind raced with thoughts of the battle. Had their efforts been enough? Would humanity survive? Outside, J6 continued to lead his forces, pushing deeper into alien territory. The fight was brutal, each victory coming at great cost. Yet even amid the carnage, there were moments of hope, soldiers working together, risking their lives to protect one another. It reminded J6 why he had kept fighting all these years, not for glory or recognition, but for the people who depended on him. As night fell, the battlefield grew eerily quiet. The aliens had retreated temporarily, retreating to regroup and plan their next attack. Exhausted but alive, J6 gathered what remained of his troops, assessing their condition. "We've held them off for now," he told them, his voice steady despite his fatigue. "But this isn't over. Rest while you can. Tomorrow, we finish what we started." Though battered and weary, the soldiers nodded, finding strength in their commander's resolve. For now, they had survived. But the war was far from won. The underground bunker was dimly lit, its walls lined with steel and glowing panels that cast a pale light over everything. Soldiers moved quietly through the corridors, tending to their wounded or preparing for the next battle. It was a place of refuge, but also of reflection, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. Commander J6 walked slowly among the injured, offering words of encouragement when he could. Many of the soldiers looked up at him with gratitude, though some turned away, unable to meet his gaze. He understood their pain. War had a way of stripping people down to their rawest emotions. Fear, anger, guilt, they all lingered here, buried beneath bandages and splints. At the far end of the medical bay, Lieutenant Yunjin lay on a cot, her face pale but determined. Her wound had been treated, but she still looked weak, her hands trembling slightly as she tried to sit up. When J6 approached, she forced a smile. "Commander," she said softly, "how are things looking?" J6 pulled up a chair beside her, his expression unreadable. "We've stalled them for now, but they'll be back. Stronger this time." Yunjin nodded, though her eyes betrayed her fear. "What happens if we lose?" Jae-sik hesitated, then sighed. Silence fell between them, heavy and suffocating. Yoon-jin stared at the ceiling, her thoughts drifting to the faces of her comrades, some alive, others gone forever. She wondered how much more she could endure before breaking completely. "You did well out there," Jae-sik said finally, breaking the quiet. "Your bravery gave us a fighting chance." "I didn't do enough," Yoon-jin replied bitterly. "If I had been faster, stronger." "No one blames you," Jae-sik interrupted gently. "War isn't about perfection. It's about doing what you can with what you have." Yoon-jin closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, Jae-sik stood, patting her shoulder reassuringly. "Rest," he told her. "We'll need you soon." As he left the medical bay, Jae-sik found himself drawn to Dr. Subin's lab. The scientist was hunched over her workstation, surrounded by tools and half-finished prototypes. Her glasses were perched precariously on her nose, and her hair was tied back in a messy bun. Despite her exhaustion, she worked tirelessly, driven by a sense of purpose that bordered on obsession. "Dr. Subin," Jae-sik greeted her, stepping inside. She glanced up briefly, then returned to her task. "Commander, what brings you here? How's the device coming along?" he asked. "It's stable for now," Subin replied. "But it won't last forever. The aliens are adapting. They'll find a way around it eventually." Jae-sik frowned, leaning against the wall. "Is there anything else we can do? Any other advantage we can exploit?" Subin paused, setting down her tools. "There's something you should know," she said quietly. "About the aliens." "What is it?" "They weren't always like this," Subin explained. "From what I've gathered, they were once peaceful beings. Explorers. Not conquerors. But centuries ago, human civilizations encountered them and exploited them. We took their resources, destroyed their homes, and forced them into servitude. Now, they see us as monsters." Jae-sik felt a chill run down his spine. "Are you saying this invasion is revenge?" "In a way, yes," Subin admitted. "But it's more than that. They believe we're incapable of change. That violence is all we understand." For a long moment, Jae-sik said nothing. The weight of Subin's words pressed down on him, forcing him to confront uncomfortable truths. Humanity wasn't innocent, not entirely. Wars, greed, destruction, they were all part of their history. Could they really claim moral superiority over the aliens? "Does Queen Hana know about this?" Jae-sik asked finally. "She does now," Subin replied. "I told her earlier." She wasn't pleased. Jae-sik chuckled dryly. "I imagine not." Leaving the lab, Jae-sik made his way to the communications room, where Queen Hana awaited him. She stood near a holographic map of the battlefield, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. Her expression was unreadable, but Jae-sik could sense the tension radiating off her. "You wanted to see me, Your Majesty?" Queen Hana turned to face him, her sharp eyes boring into his. "Tell me, Commander, do you think we deserve this? This war? This suffering?" Jae-sik hesitated, caught off guard by the question. "Deserve doesn't matter," he said carefully. "It's happening regardless." "But why?" Queen Hana pressed. "Why are they so bent on destroying us?" "Because we started it," Jae-sik admitted. "Centuries ago, humans wronged them. Now, they seek justice or vengeance." Queen Hana's jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. Instead, she turned back to the map, her fingers tracing the lines of alien movement. "Justice," she murmured. "Is that what this is, or is it simply another cycle of hatred?" Jae-sik didn't answer. He couldn't. The truth was too complex, too painful to put into words. Later that night, Jae-sik found himself sitting alone in the mess hall, staring at a cup of cold tea. Around him, soldiers laughed and joked, trying to forget the horrors they'd witnessed. But Jasek couldn't shake the feeling that this war was bigger than any of them, that it wasn't just about survival, but about redemption. He thought about Queen Hana, about her pride and her flaws. She ruled with an iron fist, demanding loyalty through strength. Yet even she had begun to question whether strength alone was enough. Perhaps, deep down, she wanted more than victory. Perhaps she wanted absolution. His thoughts drifted to Yunjin, lying in the medical bay, struggling to heal both physically and emotionally. She represented hope, the belief that humanity could rise above its mistakes, that it could learn from its failures. But hope was fragile, easily shattered by despair. And then there was Subin, working tirelessly to create weapons that might save them all. Her brilliance was undeniable, yet her burden was immense. She carried the weight of countless lives on her shoulders, knowing that failure meant annihilation. Jasek sighed, rubbing his temples. The battle ahead would test them all in ways they couldn't imagine. Sacrifices would be made, lives lost, but perhaps, just perhaps, they could forge a new path, one built not on hatred, but on understanding. As dawn broke over the horizon, Jasek rose from his seat, determination burning in his chest. Whatever came next, he would face it head-on. For Gyeongsong, for humanity, and maybe, just maybe. The alien stronghold loomed ahead, a towering fortress of black metal that seemed to pulse with an eerie energy. It was unlike anything humanity had ever seen, a structure that felt alive, its surface shifting faintly, as if breathing. Commander Jasek stood at the head of his forces, staring up at it with a mixture of awe and dread. This was it, the final battle. Either they would emerge victorious, or Gyeongsong, and perhaps all of humanity, would fall. Behind him, soldiers prepared their weapons, checking ammunition and armor one last time. Lieutenant Yunjin stood among them, her wound still bandaged, but her spirit unbroken. She had insisted on joining the assault, refusing to stay behind, despite Dr. Subin's protests. Her determination inspired those around her, a reminder that courage could shine even in the darkest moments. "Are we ready?" Jasek asked, his voice steady though his heart raced. "Yes, sir," came the chorus of responses. Jasek nodded, gripping his rifle tightly. "Remember your training. Stick to the plan. And above all, watch each other's backs." With that, he led the charge, his troops moving swiftly across the barren terrain. The air crackled with tension as they approached the stronghold, expecting resistance at any moment. But strangely, there was none. The aliens seemed to be waiting for them. Inside the fortress, the atmosphere was oppressive, the walls humming with unseen energy. The humans advanced cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the vast, empty halls. Then, suddenly, they were surrounded. Alien warriors emerged from the shadows, their glowing eyes locking onto their prey. The battle erupted instantly, a chaotic storm of light and sound. Jasek fought fiercely, his movements precise and calculated. He knew this was no ordinary fight. Every decision mattered. Nearby, Yunjin covered his flank, her aim true as she took down enemy after enemy. Despite her injury, she moved with purpose, driven by a desire to protect those she cared about. But the aliens were relentless, their numbers overwhelming. Just when it seemed like the humans might be pushed back, Dr. Subin's device activated once more, emitting a powerful pulse that disrupted the aliens' psychic link. Their movements faltered, giving the humans a crucial advantage. "Now!" Jasek shouted, leading a concentrated push deeper into the stronghold. As they pressed forward, Jasek found himself face to face with the alien leader, a towering figure clad in shimmering armor, its presence commanding and intimidating. The creature regarded him silently, its glowing eyes piercing through him as if reading his soul. "You invade our home," the alien leader spoke, its voice resonating in Jasek's mind, rather than his ears. "You destroy our people. You call yourselves civilized, yet you are no better than monsters. Jasek hesitated, the weight of the alien's words sinking in. He thought of humanity's past mistakes, of the exploitation and destruction they had inflicted on others. Was this truly justice, or was it simply another cycle of violence? We have made mistakes, Jasek admitted, his voice firm despite the turmoil inside him. But we are capable of change. Killing us will not bring peace. It will only perpetuate the cycle. The alien leader tilted its head, studying him intently. Prove it, it said finally. Show me that your kind can rise above its nature. Jasek didn't hesitate. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a small control unit connected to Subin's device. With a deep breath, he activated it, amplifying the pulse to its maximum capacity. The fortress shuddered violently as the disruption spread, severing the aliens' connection to their network. Around them, the alien warriors froze, their coordination shattered. Without their psychic link, they were disoriented. Unable to fight effectively, slowly, they began to retreat, disappearing into the shadows from which they had come. The alien leader watched them go, then turned back to Jasek. This is not over, it warned. But for now, we withdraw. Do not waste this chance. With that, it vanished, leaving Jasek alone amidst the ruins of the stronghold. Back in Gyeongsong, the city celebrated cautiously. News of the victory spread quickly, lifting spirits across the kingdom. Queen Hana addressed her people from the palace balcony, her tone somber yet hopeful. We have survived, she declared. But let this be a lesson. Strength alone cannot save us. We must strive to be better, to learn from our mistakes, and seek understanding rather than vengeance. Below, crowds cheered, though some remained silent, reflecting on the cost of the war. Among them stood Jasek, watching the scene with mixed emotions. Victory had been achieved, but it came at a price. Too many lives had been lost. Too much suffering endured. Later, Jasek returned to the palace, where Queen Hana awaited him. She sat on her throne, her expression softer than usual. Well done, Commander, she said quietly. You've saved us all. Jasek shook his head. I did what I had to do. But this isn't the end. There's still work to be done. Queen Hana nodded, understanding his meaning. I'm stepping down, Jasek replied. It's time for younger leaders to take my place. Leaders like Lieutenant Eun-jin. Queen Hana raised an eyebrow. Eun-jin? She's young, inexperienced, and brave, Jasek interrupted. She represents hope for a future where humanity chooses compassion over conflict. Queen Hana studied him for a moment, then smiled faintly. Very well. Your service will not be forgotten. In the days that followed, Jasek dedicated himself to mentoring the next generation of leaders, sharing the lessons he had learned throughout his 50 battles, and the one that mattered most. Eun-jin embraced her new role with humility, vowing to honor those who had sacrificed everything. Dr. Subin continued her research, working tirelessly to ensure that humanity would never again face such a threat unprepared. Her invention became a symbol of ingenuity and resilience, proof that even in the darkest times, solutions could be found. As life in Gyeongsong slowly returned to normal, the scars of war remained a reminder of the fragility of peace and the importance of striving for something greater. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged changed, forever shaped by the choices made in the heat of battle. And so, the story ended not with glory or triumph, but with hope. For in the end, it was not the number of battles fought that defined them, but the belief that a better future was possible.